Good morning, traders and investors. Today is Monday. It's September 12th. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Roger Scott, and I'm the senior strategist for Wealth Press. It's about 7:54 in the morning. The market's going to open up in about an hour and 36 minutes, and we've got one hell of a week. This is going to be the first big week post-summer that's going to make a big difference in the market, and I'll go over everything with you. This is a very important report to watch. And folks, if you have questions, and I'm sure you will, post them under the video. Post them in the comments section. I will answer them. If you're enjoying these videos, post it in the comments section or send me an email, support@marketgeeks.com. Anyhow, as you can see here, the market's up pretty good. The Dow's up 100 points. NASDAQ is up 78 points, which is a little bit beyond random. And the S&P, as usual, is meeting us in between. It's encouraging to see the market up a little bit. If the market's up 200, 300, 400 points in the morning, that's a little squirrely, right? But when it's up a little bit, especially after a few strong days, that is pretty impressive. Now, this week is going to be a big week for stocks and the bond market. Let me explain it. Let me get into it with you. We've got the CPI report. So before we get into the CPI report, let me just give you an idea of where we're at. We've got the CPI on Tuesday. We've got the PPI on Wednesday. These reports are going to be extremely important. These two reports will tell the Fed and us if inflationary pressure is in fact declining and if what they're doing is in fact working, which I believe it is. I wish they started earlier, but they didn't. Then on Thursday, you've got a lot of other reports. You've got import, exports, industrial production, Philadelphia manufacturing, retail sales, which is huge. But I'll be very honest with you. After these two, all of this is going to be just a major confirmation. These two reports are going to dictate what the Fed does next. So I'm pretty sure what the Fed does next will be more important than retail sales, which will probably be conclusionary after these reports. But nonetheless, retail sales does reflect 2/3 of the economy. So you've got Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The biggest focus this week, and I've been saying this a lot lately, but I'm not kidding. The biggest focus is going to be the long bond. The question is going to be whether the long bond comes back into this channel or drops like a rock. And that's going to influence mostly consumer discretionary and tech stocks, which have been holding up pretty well. Because we haven't broken that lower channel in bonds, we're starting to see some upside in discretionary stocks. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm still not seeing that foundation. So things are not looking as good from a long-term basis as they're looking from a short-term basis. Remember this story again where everything turns green here and most of the things remain red here? And again, look, utilities, green. Energy, green. Consumer staples, green, right? But look at everything else, red. And those happen to be the most defensive sectors. So I'm not seeing foundational strength on any sectors beyond those three. So that means there's a really good chance that a lot of this can become red again unless this starts becoming a lot more greener, unless these start becoming a lot more greener. We've seen this song and dance before. Now let's talk about the CPI and the PPI so I can explain to you how it can be impactful. So let's just deal with the CPI today, and then tomorrow after the CPI, we'll deal with the PPI. CPI is the consumer price index, and consumers make up 2/3 of the economy. Producers' price index is not as impactful. Now, what are we looking for? I'll tell you what we're looking for. Nobody cares about month to month. Forget about this month to month nonsense. We care about year to year. What we want to see is, we want to see the core, this number right here, below 5.9. Now, I think it's stupid and crazy for them to expect 6.1, knowing that commodity prices have been going down. But this is ex food and energy. But again, all commodities have been going down. So I think it has been going down. But if we can get this number, to 5.8, or if we can get this number to 5.7, or even if we can get it to 5.9, which would be unchanged, it would give the Fed a warm and fuzzy feeling that the worst may, notice the word I'm using, may be behind us. Now, the CPI, the year-over-year non-core, is expected to be lower, right? Look, 8.5 versus 8. But why is food and energy expected to be higher? Food and energy prices have been going lower. They haven't been going higher. They've been going lower the last couple of months. We all know that, right? I mean, not a lot, but they've been going a little bit lower. I mean, energy prices are below the Ukraine-Russia war prices right now, are right around those levels. So I'm looking and hoping that this number will be below 5.9, because then the Fed can't say what they're doing is not working, because if it's 6.1, they're going to say, well, what we're doing is not working. We have to go an extra mile. But if it is working, it can cause a nice rally in the market. If this number is 8 versus 8.5, basically I'm looking for these numbers to be lower than these two numbers. And I don't care about month over month. It means nothing. I want to see year over year. And that's what the Fed is looking at. They're looking at these two numbers. I'm telling you right now, they're looking at these two numbers right now. And again, I don't see why they're expecting the non-core to be higher, or core to be higher and non-core to be lower. But again, I'm looking for both of these numbers to be lower. And I guess we'll tackle the PPI tomorrow morning. But this is really important number, and I'm going to try to do the report a little later for you to show you how it impacts. But it will impact the bond market, and it's going to impact stocks substantially, especially consumer, tech, chip stocks, those type of stocks. Now, let's talk about global economy, and then I'll talk a little bit more about sentiment. Wall Street finally snapped a 3-week losing streak. Asian markets were on holiday, and U.S. futures rose while oil prices turned higher, which means if the broad market goes higher and oil goes higher, less chance of recession. If oil goes down, higher chance of a recession. Investors are watching for U.S. inflation figures and Chinese economic data. The U.S. Labor Department will release its report on consumer prices for August on Tuesday. That's what I've been harping about. And a report on wholesale Wednesday. Again, I'll talk about the wholesale when we get closer to it. On Thursday, Wall Street will get an update on retail sales. And I think that's going to be huge. But after seeing these two reports and what the Fed will do, I don't know if it'll be that impactful. Corona cases. I can't believe I'm still talking about COVID. Are still casting a shadow in China. 65 million Chinese were under lockdown as of last week, despite just 1,248 new cases. So I guess they're doing this mostly asymptomatic. I guess they're just having corona post-traumatic stress disorder. Big gains for tech companies push NASDAQ comp up, while the Dow Jones rose as well. When they're both going up and energy's going up, less fear of a recession, more fear of a comeback. Smaller stocks jumped as well, and jumped pretty good, 1.9 versus 2.1 for NASDAQ. That means they're starting to move. The Federal Reserve is in the spotlight as investors try to figure out whether the U.S. central bank's plans to cool the hottest inflation in 4 decades will work or possibly tip us into a recession, and it's a balancing act. Stocks spent July and part of August gaining ground on hopes that the Fed will ease up on its interest rate hikes, but slumped over the last few weeks as it became clear the central banks remained resolute in raising rates. And I have no idea what gave them the thought that they were going to go lower. Even if the CPI is lower, they're not going to go lower. It just means what they're doing is working. It means in the future they may go lower. I mean, we are on a set to go to 0.75 2 more times, and the market's anticipating it already. Fed officials, including Mr. I won't tell you the truth till I get reappointed Powell, have all reaffirmed the central bank's determination to raise rates until inflation is under control. And I think that's a very good policy. Now, we got to keep an eye on consumer discretionary stocks. If bonds go down, if this is going to be a downtrend, this will pull everything down. And if you look at my stock fetcher, you could see we've been kind of going up. And I think this will continue in energies. Utilities are in a question mark. But I think we're going to see another day or two of upside till we get this report. If the report is bullish, if the report is, in other words, bullish, meaning the number is not above, then the Fed will be less likely to make drastic changes. But these are the key numbers we want to pay attention to right here. And I'm hoping this is going to be 5.9 or 5.8. I don't understand why they think. This is the second time they think this is going to be higher, but expecting this number to be lower, which makes no sense at all. But again, look at the vulnerability. Consumer discretionary only has 22% of stocks trading above the 200-day moving average. It could easily decline. Financials can easily decline. Look at real estate, 19%. Communication services, 19%. So there's a lot of vulnerabilities in these rallies. There's a much higher chance that these rallies will will fizzle out, then go higher. I'm going to repeat what I just said. Because of this, because of these reds here, there's a lot higher chance that these rallies will fizzle out and not break higher. Now, there's an exception to these rules. Energy looks like it's going to break it. Utilities already broke it. And where is my consumer staples? Consumer staples is looking strong. Look, you've got 55%. I'm only going by this. I'm only comparing the 50-day and the 200-day. And if the 200-day looks good, then there's a chance that these stocks, these indexes, will break above the previous hump. If there isn't, then there's not a lot of support for them. There's not a lot of foundational strength. Like communication services, 19% of stocks are trading above the 200-day moving average. Look at communication services here. Look at this. Look at how low it is compared to this hump. It's got to go 4 points just to hit this hump. And then you've got this hump here, which had never superseded. Remember, this was that 8.6 CPI. So we've got a big road ahead, and I don't think these stocks are really going to give us the upside that investors are looking for this time around. Energy, utilities, consumer, healthcare maybe. Let's look at healthcare. I don't think healthcare is looking all that great either here. 33%. No. So again, be very mindful when you're seeing these rallies, these stocks moving above the 50-day moving average. Always use that example I gave you, the Great Dane. Some guy, an average-sized guy like me walking a Great Dane. The Great Dane gets excited. This is me. This is the Great Dane. The Great Dane's going to pull me for a while, but I'm going to retain control over time. And that's what this is about. So when you're looking at these sectors, always look at it in line with this. And to get there, all you got to do is go to market performance, go to stocks, market performance, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about. All you got to do is look at these 11 sectors, and you'll see if the 200-day is red, be very cautious that the 50-day is green. And you really need to just look at 2 of these. Now, put the call ratio is still inflated, and that's because investors have been hedging and buying more puts than calls. That's why the market has not regained strength. The next major resistance level for the stock market, let me show you what it is right now, for the SPY is going to be this area right here. It's going to be the 419 level. For the QQQ, the next resistance level is going to be the 415 level. And for the Dow, the next major area is going to be the 33,400 level or the 34,000. We need to pass 34,000. Until we do, don't get so bullish because there's a lot of vulnerabilities right here. I mean, there's a lot of vulnerabilities here. Don't get so excited. This rally needs to become strong. It needs to be foundationally strong, not excited like a dog that's seeing a cat and wants to chase it, which is what this is right now. So be very, very cautious. And again, we've got a lot of Fed data this week, and I'll be doing a lot of analysis. And if you're enjoying these videos, post comments below these videos. Now, as you know, I use an algorithmic-based systems to identify potential trades. The reasons why is simple. Algos help remove emotions from trading and make me more consistent, even in tough market conditions. And I recommend all traders at least learn the basics of how algo systems work and even how to create one. That's why I put together an algo trading seminar. It's completely free to watch, and I even give away strategy that I think all traders need to know about. I'll talk about clusters. I'll talk about hedges. I'll talk about how professional hedge funds trade the market and how different they are from amateurs. I'll talk about my 11 scans. I'll talk about how I use my 11 scans, how I use a hedge in my 11 scans. It's going to be hardcore meat and potatoes. We've had, I think last time we had it, we have 600-700 people on, and people loved it. I mean, the feedback was just amazing. You need to follow the link below, and it'll tell you what my #1 play is right now. You don't want to miss out. Follow the link below, check it out, and post comments. I love my comments. Bye, guys. I'll see you later. Have a great, great week, and remember, we've got some Fed data coming out tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we got to be ready for it. I'll see you later, and I got you guys covered here every step of the way. Bye.